Today, on the reboot of Kelly and Company, on the program, John Melville, Vice President of Content Development and Programming at AMI, gives us the scoop on where the company is headed. And join culinary expert Mary Mammoliti on a sweet journey down memory lane, unwrapping the nostalgic flavors and stories of vintage Halloween treats. All coming up on the 8th anniversary of Kelly and Company, unofficially and officially on Halloween. Ramya Muthan hanging out with me on this first edition of the rebooted program of Kelly and Company. Of course, 8 years ago, we kicked off the original program in costume on Halloween, and it was a lot of fun. Ramya, I was thinking the other day when it came to this particular topic, how the buzz for the show. I mean, we had launched a morning show the prior February. They thought, it'd be kind of cool to do an afternoon show. So AMI Audio launched Kelly and Company, October 31st, 2016, and the hype before it was wonderful. We did cool promos, a lot of neat stuff, talked it up. The company spoiled the heck out of us. The 31st came and went. And as I predicted, it was just a normal day, November 1st, and everybody started treating us normal. Let's go back to the beginning.
Hold
Happens,
up, though.
right? It's familiar.
Are you telling me that the hype, as in the official promotions of Kelly and Company, started in February of that year?
No,
February to
that's
October, or
when the
just
morning
talk?
show started,
Okay.
right? The morning show
Oh, I
started.
see,
And
I
then in
see.
April, May, kind of the buzz started. Let's maybe do an afternoon show. John Melville will be here in a bit to kind of recap all that. We'll get into
Straighten
that with
things
him.
out.
But yeah, it was really interesting, but you felt like so spoiled before the show went on the air.
Yeah.
And then just like, well, come on, get on with your workday. Let's go.
I always tell people you're jaded like this. You're jaded because this happened when we went to TV for Kelly and Ramya as well. You're like, yeah, it's gonna be so hype for the first day, and then everyone's gonna forget all about us. And I was like, how could you do this? How could you talk like this? And but anyways, it was kind of true. So you
Kinda
think the
true.
same is gonna happen tomorrow,
Correct.
November 1st?
I'm
It's
glad
gonna
you
be.
said that. I was about to, but you stole
I'm
the thunder.
asking you. It's a
Oh,
question. I
really?
want to get your
Okay. I'll
opinion
just
on it.
agree with you. I think you might be right with that, with the answer to that
Mhm.
probably.
Yeah.
Something else that we have talked about on the program is the cost of candy before Halloween, and then the day after things
Here we
start
go.
going on sale, Ramya. And this year, more of a reason to deal with that kind of thing is because, well, quite frankly, cocoa is up, way up. And
Yeah.
they say 25% on sugar is up. So those sales look really good. If you go in tomorrow, Saturday, to take advantage of them, you should be able to buy candy at its actual price.
Is that why my mom bought plain potato chips for trick-or-treaters? She bought 3 boxes of chips that
Ew.
no one in my family has touched for 3 weeks, okay? And I was thinking, like, wow, she went nice and early. Like, this never happens in our house. Nice and early, bought 3 boxes. I'm so psyched. I've been absolutely under self-control, not touching these boxes of potato chips, thinking, nope, the kids get the first, taste of these chips. I will wait until October 31st along with them. And then it turns out yesterday when I couldn't help myself and opened the box that they're all plain Lay's potato chips. Do people even eat this? I told her it's criminal to give these to kids.
And is it a benefit to buy that anymore? Are they actually cheaper? Does it really matter? And how
I
do you tell the
don't
difference
even
between plain
know.
chips and air?
It's so good though. I don't know. They're
Liz,
so
are you
Really?
underrated.
Plain chips?
As an adult,
Nazreen?
like think back to a 7-year-old.
It's the original, the plain chips, the plain salted Lay's chips. Yeah, those are the OGs. They're so
What are they eating it
delicious.
with?
You know
Salsa,
what?
cheese
You know
whiz?
what should be criminal? You know what is criminal? People giving out the rockets.
Okay, yeah,
Oh.
that's
Those
true.
are
That's true.
nasty.
I don't
agree.
mind those.
I agree.
I
I don't
remember
cross
growing
the
up,
thing.
Stop.
there was always one person that would give out the rockets like it was the
Mhm.
best thing ever. No, they're disgusting. I can't stand them.
October
Wow.
31st, 2025. Just give out the same rockets because no one's eating them.
You
So
ever
bad.
think about which candy has been the one that's been handed out like for decades, for a century? By the way, folks, welcome
Oh.
to the audience on YouTube, and of course, a big welcome, Nazreen Abdel Majid joining us. She's our technical producer for the show, popping in and out with us. What candy do you think, ladies, has really really gone through the test of time? Is it those
Uh,
rockets? Is it the candy corn
Yeah,
stuff?
or Twizzlers, right?
Oh my
Ooh,
Twizzlers have
god,
been
yeah.
around for generations. They're
Too
gross
oh
too.
long.
man.
They're
I was
gross.
talking to Jacob on AMI
Hate them
today
out.
about the shoelace licorice because I'm a huge fan of that, even though I've only
Yeah,
had it a few times in my life. But you would never find that in a Halloween bag. You just wouldn't,
they're
right?
good.
Because it's so long and ooh,
Yeah.
but boy, what a flavor. What a real flavor. Ladies
Mhm.
and gentlemen, how this works. We'll be here 2 p.m. Eastern time. You can find us on YouTube, on AMI Audio. And we really are pleased for those of you who found us for the first time, our returning friends out there, to Kelly and Company, and the people who are our contributors that will be coming to the program to talk leisure and lifestyle and conversations like that. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, we're an hour-long product. And Tuesdays and Fridays, we're a shortened product with the brand new sports show. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but more so on tomorrow's show as we tee that up for you and get you interested in that. But we have also welcoming some of the folks who have been on AMI programming through the years as well. Amy Amantea joins us from Vancouver to talk a little Halloween. And Amy, when she is on the program, is our arts and culture critic for the program. Amy, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to be here. This is awesome.
Hey,
Happy
Amy.
Halloween.
Thank you.
Happy
Yeah. It's
Halloween.
now. Is this your favorite, Amy? Is like I always say to people, I liked Halloween more than Christmas. You?
I do too. And I'm not in costume, but I am wearing a couple of necklaces that are like Mardi Gras and they're little skulls and bones.
Oh, cool.
One in
Ooh,
like vibrant
nice.
orange and one in vibrant purple. So they're like Mardi
Did
Gras
you make
necklaces.
those? You're also
No,
the
not
blind
these
dealer.
ones.
Okay.
I know. These ones I appropriated from the dollar store.
Um, what's your favorite costume you've ever made for Halloween, Amy? Do you recall?
Oh goodness. I have made so many cool costumes over the year because I used to be one of those folks that would go, to all the value villages and collect things and
Yes.
put things together. And I think this one year I made a really cool, it was a basic witch costume, but I really went all out to find all the pieces. So it was really layered with like old black vintage type laced fabrics, like old, like layered and layered and layered and layered. So she really looked
Nice.
very raggedy,
Yeah.
but not like your typical witch, but kind of like, the old lady witch that was next door, not your Disney witch. And it took me weeks to find all the
The witch
pieces.
next
So she
door?
was really fun.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
the
witch
one that you
next
don't
door.
know that's there. She doesn't typically wear a hat. That's like your Disney
Uh,
witch. But the witch next door
Yeah.
is the
yeah.
one that wears like the babushka and the, that kind of
Sure.
thing.
The one that
Yeah.
kind of fools you that you don't know
Like
is a
the
witch.
lady that
Underrated
lives in
witch.
the shoe, the witch. Yeah.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that's the scary lady down the street that the kids get worried about, but you don't know is a witch. You just think she's the
Ugh.
scary old lady or the scary lady that
Yeah.
lives in the house over there with all the unmowed lawn. Ramya, I'm going to alter this question. What is the favorite costume that you've ever purchased?
Oh, thank you, because I don't make costumes. By the way, like it's just
Correct.
so appropriate now. People just go out and get a super cheap mask and call it a costume. Like my brother's been throwing around the word costume, and it turns out he just meant mask.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, for me, what it would have been? It's no longer a thing because I can't pull it off anymore. But remember when I was the nun from The Conjuring? That was
Yes.
it was less about okay, obviously the costume was wicked and like it was just the makeup and everything was great. But I think the fun was just scaring everybody around me, including all the
Wow.
videos I have of my family, of colleagues, people's impressions. People didn't even know it was me. So it was great.
I think
Can't do that
that's
anymore.
when it's really fun because it's so unique, especially if people have no idea. And I know wearing the mask is kind of that thing you would do at an office party walk in. I know some people want to dress fully up, and AMI gets really into this and really has a fun time, which I like to see. But I understand that sometimes you just do the mask thing, and that's okay too. But definitely, I'm with you. I would
Is
never
it
ever call that
though?
a costume.
I think people
Never
like
call it a
Dawn
costume.
Dickinson, our colleague, would just absolutely, you know, not agree with that.
With what?
Slam her
That
fist, saying that mask is a
oh
costume.
Oh, no, it isn't. It
It's
isn't,
not.
but, there's an appropriate place for just a mask, but there's no way I'd ever call it a costume. And because to me, it's and again, I'm not saying someone has to do all the makeup, but come on, if you're really into Halloween, I remember my family and getting ready to go trick or treating. Man, I was being worked on sometimes an hour and a half before we went out. That's it.
Oh
It
my.
was just that
Yeah.
much fun. Um, Amy, we talk about getting out to do these activities, and that's what you're here to share with us, enjoying those Halloween activities. Can you share with us some ideas for last minute Halloween costumes?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're still struggling for a last minute Halloween costume and tick, 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 there's a couple of things that you can do. I was looking for some inspiration, and the paper doll costume is pretty popular this year. Go figure, the paper doll, and pretty easy to make. So, as we all remember, hopefully, the paper doll really is a paper outfit, and it's got these little tabs that you would fold over the paper, right? So that the outfit sticks to the paper. So you are the doll and you're wearing whatever neutral clothing underneath. And then you have cut out whatever clothing you want to wear. So it could be a skirt, it could be a bag, it could be a top, it could be a bow in your hair. And you just got to leave a little cutout for the square tab that would hook on over your arms, or right, you don't have to hook it on, you just right, and you attach it to yourself at the back with a piece of string that would go around, right? You don't see the string, so it's really easy. You can actually print patterns off online if you want to. You can create
Neat.
your own, and really all you need is a pair of scissors, maybe a black felt marker if you want to outline sort of like skirts and add a little pleat, drawn pleats on them or whatever, a pair of scissors, and like big construction cardboard, the big Bristol boards that we all used to do children's
Yes.
poster sized projects on. It's really all you need. So those
That's
are kind of
awesome.
fun this year.
Wow.
Okay, tell me one more
And
time.
recyclable.
How is it's what?
And recyclable.
Oh, it is
Right.
recyclable.
Yep.
Yes. Okay,
100%.
thumbs up. Now, what is happening with the paper? Like, I've never heard of a paper doll costume, so you had to break it down further for me. Where's the
Okay.
paper?
You remember the traditional paper dolls?
Mm-mm.
Do you?
That's
Okay,
where
so
you lost me, or all the way from the
Oh,
beginning.
okay. So a paper doll is a piece of paper that has a doll drawn on it.
Oh,
So
okay.
think about something that's maybe the size of a Barbie doll. So I don't know, 10 inches ish,
Mm-hmm.
and it's drawn flat. It's a flat doll on a piece of paper, and then you have a set of clothing that's flat, made out of paper, and you cut the paper out into the shape of a t-shirt or a dress or a skirt,
Stick it right on.
and then you put it on top of the doll and you fold over the edges of just these little tabs so that the clothes don't fall off, because you can't put legs on them or whatever, right?
It's like the two-dimensional version of Barbie.
It's kind of like that. It's just a flat, it's a piece of paper. It's flat on flat.
Wow.
So now
Okay.
imagine that you're the doll, but the clothing is still this flat piece of cardboard. And to make it look like you're a paper doll, the tabs that you cut out are like at shoulder height. And so let's imagine your shoulder. So you'd cut it out like a shape of a t-shirt, but you would cut out these tabs that look like squares sticking up from your shoulder. And if you were the paper, they would fold those tabs down
Fold
and you'd
over.
never see them. And
Yeah.
that's how the shirt would hang from your body. But
That's so
instead,
fun.
it looks like, the tab of the, so, it's obvious that it's a paper shirt.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
I would not
Really.
advise you being
Retro.
naked under these these paper clothes.
No,
So
no,
wear
have
something
not.
neutral.
No.
Let's not promote that. Okay, cool.
No.
All right,
And
Be
what's
it's
another
neutral.
one?
Be neutral.
Neutral.
You'd be
Neutral.
cold.
The other one that I think is quite fun is there's a bubble tea, which is quite easy and quite fun. So we don't have a photo of this one, but the bubble tea, super simple. So you can pick any neutral dress or plain, so all black or all white, right? If you drink bubble tea, you know this. If you're using a dress, think of something that's kind of knee length. If you're using pants or a long skirt, that's fine. And then you add pom-poms. They're like the tapioca, right? So they'd be at hem level of your skirt.
Right.
And they could be 3D. Now, I'm thinking if you don't have pom-poms around, you can take any piece of fabric or even toilet paper. Hopefully it's not raining in your area. And when you take fabric and you fold it like a fan back to back to back to back, and you put your fingers in the middle, kind of like a bow, and you fan it out, it creates a circle.
Yeah.
You ever done this? Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that kind of creates kind of a 3D circle, and you can just attach those with a piece of string or a paper clip a safety pin to the outfit, and it creates kind of the same pom-pom type effect, a 3D circle-ish on the clothing. So those are your tapioca. And in your hair, you glue to a headband a toilet paper, actually it's better, a paper towel roll. It's your straw. And you can
Oh,
cover
yes.
that, right? You can cover that in
Yeah.
like pink wrapping paper or color it pink, and it just sticks out of your head as your straw. And if you wanted to, you could walk around with, a cup of bubble tea in your hand. But
Just to
it's
let
just
people know
kind of,
that that's what you
it's
are.
kind of a
Yeah.
fun thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
would you
simple,
put
it's
a
fun.
handle on yourself too, like on one arm or your back or something that
No.
looks like a handle?
No,
No, you
because
wouldn't do
it comes
that?
in a
I don't think
Well, I guess
handles
they
plastic
come with
don't,
it.
cup,
right?
right?
Yeah, true. Especially
Mm-mm.
your
Clear
takeout cup.
plastic cup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Then you just
So,
So
throw
and if
true.
people
you
off,
have
Kelly.
Yeah,
if
that's
you have
true.
long hair, you can put those two high buns up that sit just on the top of your kind of your temples, the back of your temples, those two high buns, kind of look a
Mhm.
little tapioca-ish. So it's fun and it's inventive and it's like super easy and super office appropriate if you need something for the office.
Okay, that's
Wow, and
fair.
people
Yeah.
asking you, "What the heck? What are you? Who are you?"
That's
Bubble
why you gotta
tea.
carry around the bubble
Um,
tea.
yeah, that's what exactly, but it would never last. I'd drink it too fast. Aim, you have another idea for us? Something else?
I I do. This one is my favorite. It takes a little bit more work, but still I think super easy. It's a Lego block. A
Ah,
Lego block.
everyone's
How
favorite, Lego.
Right? How fun is this? So you
Mhm.
take a cardboard box, probably you have something around in your house. If not, pretty easy to find. It should cover kind of your torso. So think about your waist up to your neck. And you have to cut 3 holes into it, right? So the bottom has no flaps on it. So you're wearing it like a t-shirt. You need a neck hole and 2 armholes. And what you do is you take those plastic container bowls, think the Ziploc ones you buy in the dollar store, 4 in a pack. You don't need the lids, but you glue those on in the pattern of 6. Think like a die, right? Like a Lego block,
Yeah.
Yeah,
6,
yes,
Mhm.
3 and
yes.
3. You glue those on and you spray paint it whatever color you want your Lego block to be. In our photo, it's yellow. So she spray paints it a layer of primer, white, then she spray paints it a layer of yellow, and then she walks around wearing this box with her head out the top and a Lego block. And I thought it was absolutely
That's cute.
genius. It's
Yeah.
genius.
Yeah.
And that I think would be fun. Like if you have small kids, that's a really fun project.
Mhm. All of these are. They're very
They
DIY
are
and
really
Yeah.
creative.
cool.
Yeah.
There's
Okay,
lots
I
you can
love
do
it.
with a box. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. And I think, instead of going to a store and buying, fast fashion Halloween stuff, why not take the time, especially if you got kids, to do a project with them, to have some fun? These are the kinds of things that they will remember. When I was a kid and I used to make projects with my parents, I remember one year, my dad went as Braveheart for Christmas. There's the big
Okay.
year that
Yep.
Braveheart was for
Was
Christmas, for
seen.
Halloween. Yeah,
Right.
not for Christmas. But it was the big year that Braveheart was released. So he bought a piece of
Mhm.
tartan fabric and he wrapped it around like a kilt and over his chest, like they do in the movie. And he bought a T-shirt that was kind of burlappy and he tattered it up, right? And we made a sword. And I was like, "How are you going to make a sword?" So he bought 2 pieces of molding, like you would see at the bottom of your floor, at the top of your ceiling, in
Mhm.
a shape
Oh,
that kind of resembled a sword. So it was flat in the middle and came down on both sides, kind of like a sword would. And he just cut
yeah.
it at a point. So they laid back to back as a point, and he made a hilt for a handle, and he wrapped it in some kind of fabric, so it looked like an ancient sword, and he painted it silver, and it was long, and it was like it totally did the trick, right? It looked really unique, and that's all he did. He took an old pair of shoes and he wrapped them in fabric like they did in the 1300s, and he
Yeah.
walked around like that as Braveheart. And like we had so much fun making that together, the sword together, because we still have the sword in this house, and that's 25
That's
years
so
later at
sweet.
least, right? So having those
Yeah.
memories, whether it's your costume or a costume you're making for, a party that your parent is going to, those are the memories that you have forever. So it's
Mhm.
much more meaningful than having a costume that's made out of plastic that you
Mhm.
put
Sure
in a
is, and
box
you
and
surprise
it's
yourself
by
too as you
box.
work on it. Wow.
That's right. Building
Exactly.
skills, building memories. I think that's so much fun.
Yeah. And if you're not making costumes together, you can always like do stuff with the pumpkin, right? The pumpkin carving or taking the seeds out or deciding what to do with it.
Roasting
Like
those, eating
anything,
those.
anything.
Mhm.
Yeah. All
Yep,
of that is
yep.
Do you know
fun.
what
Uh,
a friend of mine just told me about their pumpkins. Because what do you do with your pumpkin after Halloween is over? A lot of people go and smash them, and you can do that. There's like, festivals and things that do that, pumpkin smashing contests and stuff. But the day after Halloween, they have a local park here in Vancouver, in some areas where you line the pathway of the park. The whole community comes out and puts their jack-o'-lanterns and lines
Oh,
the
wow.
pathway and lights them all up. So at night you can walk
Yes.
this pathway of all of the neighborhood's jack-o'-lanterns. How cool is that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really cool,
Vancouver should
and
have
that's a
something for
great way to
everyone.
pick them up and, when they're done and dispose. And we have a couple of
Yep.
more moments. Do you wanna talk about a few fun things to do or things we've done already, maybe even missed out on them? Can you highlight a couple?
Yeah. We probably all missed out on this. I certainly did because I don't live in the Toronto area. But of course, some people might know that in the Toronto area, the Disability Collective did the Rocky Horror Picture Show, one of my favorites, even though it's a little bit controversial this year. Well, it has
Mm,
been controversial in the years of the past, but I
yep.
still love it. Part of it is recognizing why it's controversial. But the Rocky Horror Picture Show has every year for Halloween, people have been going to watch it on screens and have been like throwing toast and popcorn at the screen and, covering their heads with newspaper because it prompts you to do this. It's an interactive show when you're in the theater with it. And this year they did an all deaf shadow cast. So there were ASL performers in front of the screen performing to like the exact movie out with ASL performers, which is brilliant. And of course, they built in a whole bunch of other accessibility things into the show. They had audio description. People show up in costumes to these things. So they had JJ Hunt come in and sort of pre-describe stuff that was happening in the lobby, photo booths and prop bags. So if you didn't happen to bring your own toast with you, that's fine.
Right?
They'll give you all the
Yeah.
things that you need,
Oh, a
right?
piece of cold toast
Yeah.
to throw.
Well, and
There
sometimes
were
people don't know.
They don't know. I was just gonna say there were some Rocky virgins in the crowd. We know them personally, and they were just like, I don't know what to do. And it's so exciting hearing JJ Hunt's like
Pre-show
enthusiasm
notes?
welcoming new people into it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And let's take a listen because we put together just a tiny little compilation of the 30 minutes of pre-show notes that JJ actually gave out
great.
to the audience. Anyone can find this, by the way, at the Disability Collective's podcast feed, the Toronto Disability Collective, but here's a sample.
Welcome to the pre-recorded, pre-released, pre-show notes for the Disability Collective's presentation of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, featuring an all-star, all-deaf shadow cast. I'm your describer, JJ Hunt. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is a campy, sexy musical tribute to early B-movie sci-fi and horror films. It's the story of a young newly engaged couple, Brad and Janet, whose car breaks down on a rainy night. They go to a nearby castle to find a phone so they can call for help, but there they discover a mad scientist, Dr. Frank N. Furter, hosting a strange convention of sorts. It turns out that Frankenfurter is a self-described sweet transvestite, and he's been working to create a muscle man to act as his personal plaything. And wouldn't you know it, this is the very night that muscle man is destined to be born and revealed to the castle's gathered guests. Visually, what really makes the Rocky Horror Picture Show are the costumes. They are outstanding. It's like the coolest 1970s rock and roll high school kids raided all the London and New York thrift shops for awesome vintage clothes, and they found a box of corsets and boas from a trashy Moulin Rouge drag troupe. They then brought all that clothing back to their party flat and got dressed up, doing their makeup while watching glam rock videos.
Oh, the descriptions this guy gives, we
I
have him on our program
know.
too, doing this stuff, but you can put him anywhere. Amy, absolutely tremendous as you get people ready. And we know so many people this week taking part. So really, there's no excuse. It's never too late to make a costume or grab your popcorn and throw it at people. Amy, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Nice to see you both. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We're not just
Wow,
talking about
that
the
was
Rocky
really
Horror
cool.
Pictures. You can throw it at anybody, I guess.
Toast, yeah, you just throw it. Well, you're supposed to throw it at the screen.
Popcorn. Oh.
at the screen,
Okay.
right? That's why you're
Yeah.
cold toast. You don't want that slapping you in the head. I'm sure from the back it doesn't quite make it. Can you imagine the thrust of throwing, toast?
That's
Really interesting.
fun.
Amy will be with us every couple of Thursdays a month. She's our art and culture critic on the program. So you didn't actually go to this thing in Toronto?
I did not, but I had a
Wow.
blast listening to the 30 minutes. Seriously, check it out. Have you checked it out yet? I sent it to
Oh
you.
yeah, the show notes are tremendous. It's really
So
amazing.
good.
And JJ would. I mean, I remember the hype, as Amy mentioned, forever. It's been something that has
Yeah,
always been there, always been very controversy. It's not my kind of thing. I have a
I was gonna
struggle. I've
say,
tried to watch the movie, and I'm like, what the hell is this about? So I've
I
kind
feel
of
like I
got
got
lost in it.
a gist, the vibe of what Rocky's all about. But do you have any super fans in your life?
I've had friends who've loved that. I know back in the day, the University of Western Ontario always used to hold it, and people I knew years ago used to go all the time, like every
Mhm.
year. And I'd ask them, why the heck? And I know they're not really going to watch it. They're going to
Yeah,
watch it, but
to
experience,
throw stuff.
do the and throw stuff, but also respond to the film in the spots you're supposed to, because they know every spot you're supposed to boo or you're supposed to make
Yeah,
those
yeah,
noises. And
yeah.
they've held parties at their place when rentals was available, because this is going on, really since the 70s. So pretty wild. If you want to comment, folks, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co. AMI. Always want to hear from you. Please check out our handles there. Back in the 70s, somebody who's our next guest was doing music. Were you a Rocky Horror Picture Show fan, John Melville, as you join us on the show?
I wouldn't describe myself as a fan, Kelly. Hi, Ramya.
Hey.
It was more, I was a disc jockey back then when I was in uni. I was at Carleton and Ottawa. And we had that album very close at hand because, I mean, the Time Warp was a dance floor classic. I think it
Yeah.
still is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sweet Transvestite. I wore out a couple of editions of the Rocky Horror Picture Show in my day. So I was kind of like I am now, behind the scenes, behind the turntables, spinning Rocky Horror, watching everybody get down to the music. So it was a cool time.
Do you have anything
Nice.
in your collection now from it? Just mainly the main album?
Oh yeah, I have the vinyl and I also have the CD. So I'm hard media still, Kelly. So I like to be able to hold my music as well as play it. So yeah, I got
Yes.
them both.
We welcome in John Melville. Of course, he at AMI is Vice President of Content Development and Programming at AMI. John, favorite part of Halloween? Let's start there. What do you like? The costume, the candies? Do you have a favorite costume you either bought or made?
I'm not really a costume guy anymore. I used to have. I went as a clock one year, like a grandfather clock. I spent a lot of time making the costume, and it was made like a cardboard boxes and stuff. And unfortunately, it rained the night I was young enough to go out back in those days. I went one year as
Wow.
Joey Ramone. That was
Oh,
cool.
yep, yep.
Had the black hair, the whole bit, the tight jeans, and I could actually fit into them in those days. I think I prefer costumes that you can kind of put the makeup on rather than have to get into something. Just me. I don't like having my head covered, but what I always get like freaked out at Halloween. I think I have that clown thing, fear of clowns, because
Yes.
Oh,
I'm always like, even if you're amongst all your friends, you don't know who they are necessarily,
No.
and you're like you don't know what to say. It's like, ooh, good costume. Who are you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a few interesting things in the years.
Clowns are, and I don't know what it is. It's almost the more scarier than an actual scary mask. People really get creeped out about a clown as soon as you say, "Oh, look at that! There's the werewolf. Oh, there's Dracula. There's a clown. Oh, gee."
I
Like
think it's
it
something to do with having the
kind of
face
weird.
covered, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't identify who's underneath, so there
You
is
don't
that
trust
sort of
clowns either.
suspension, right? Yeah, well,
Yeah. Yeah, you
yeah.
never know when a clown's going to do something to you, right? Like suddenly, there's an egg in your ear or something like that. I guess that's a magician.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
so
So
exaggerated. I think the
yes,
exaggerated persona, when you're a kid, you don't know what to do with that. But I don't
my
know why it's
dogs hate him.
scary and not funny for everybody, right? Like that's the
No.
psych
True,
part of it that's
and
interesting.
there are
Because it
evil
could be
clowns
funny.
too, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
The Child's
Pennywise.
Play
Well,
clown,
Ruined it for
or
everybody.
yeah.
yeah, and I always have said that about stand-up comics because in my head, we're clowns kind of anyway. But you get a comic, a stand-up comic, or a comic who does stuff primarily. You roll them out as a bad guy, like they're the scariest bad guys because clowns you just never know. Funny people you never know, and if they go sideways, it's like, oh my god, the world's over. So I
Mm.
find that sometimes even more shaking us up. Ramya, John, we're celebrating today. This show has been available to people, and for our fans out on YouTube, the new people joining us, hi, really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can walk you through some interesting things. But let's talk a little history, if you don't mind us indulging ourselves. John, a concept came up a little more than 8 years ago. I'll say 8.5 years ago, after the morning show on AMI Audio was launched. The idea was born to do an afternoon show. Can you kind of walk us through that?
Sure. Well, I think back then we were the reading service, AMI Audio, and we had started to do shows like Mosaic City, which you may remember. And these were more sort of in-depth, non-reading shows where we would actually go out and interview people in the community and things like that. And it was actually David Arrington and I, who was our CEO, who were sitting around one day. We both came out of the sports television and sports radio environment. So we'd been exposed to all the talk shows and everything else through that, right? And we were saying, why don't we try something like that? And at the time, Kelly, you were doing, I think you were working for AMI This Week. You were doing a lot of features, and we thought Kelly would be ideal for this. What we wanted to do was kind of capture a day-to-day show, essentially, that would be able to be topical, because news changes very quickly, right? So that
Mhm.
was the impetus of getting it started. And I went over actually to Scotland to the RNIB. They have their studios in Glasgow, and that's where I actually ran into Stephen Scott, who is our Double Tap guy, for the first time. And Stephen back then was hosting a morning radio show, and we went over with the express purpose of being able to see how they did it, right? And they were kind of reading newspapers too. They were reading headlines and things in the studio on the air. But we thought, we could do that, but we could also bring in guests and things to talk in real time. And it was 8 years ago today that you were dressed as Friar Tuck, Kelly, and we were
I tried to get
launching.
a picture, man.
I think Nazreen has one. I think
It
she's
was
going to
in
put
the
it up
dark,
Does
online.
she?
Kelly. Do you
Okay,
remember?
nice.
You turned off the
Oh, we
lights.
sat in the dark to scare people, and we had it all rigged up. Anyone walk in, whoa, and we had some really scary stuff people talked about, but just unusual. Nazreen, I think you're putting something up on line, right, on social later with that Friar Tuck with
Yeah.
myself, and Mikey Ross is
Oh
in there
my
too, right?
God.
Yeah, Mike was there
Yeah.
too.
I
That's
posted on
amazing.
Twitter a throwback picture from 2016, 8 years ago, and it was hilarious. I mean, you rocked that costume.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
thank Don for that one. Don really helped put things together for several of us. That year, I think Matt was dressed as our at the time technical producer, now senior producer for the show, as Robin Hood. I think that was the same year.
Oh,
Yeah,
And
that's
I
right.
might be mixing it up, right? He was Robin Hood,
okay.
and Andy, I can't remember who Andy Frank was, manager of AMI. So really cool. John, we're fast forwarding ahead. We've done the program. We tried the TV thing for Kelly and Ramya as we changed the name. That came to an end in September, shocking a few people out there in the audience, you wonderful, loyal fans of our live programming. So we're moved over here back to AMI Audio full-time. Absolutely happy to be back home on AMI Audio, but we've added the YouTube piece. Very important, something that has been discussed. We've heard this kind of thing for a while. This is kind of a John Melville pet project. You see the value in it. Can you walk people through how come? What is that value that now, ladies and gentlemen, find us on YouTube smiling at you?
Well, a lot of folks now are looking at YouTube. They're streaming. The conventional broadcast television where you turn on a show and watch it is losing audience, to be honest. And
Yeah.
we were noticing that people in our audience, people who are blind, partially sighted, people with disabilities, weren't necessarily subscribers to AMI TV. They didn't have cable TV, and in a lot of our research, they were saying, yeah, I use Netflix, Amazon, CBC Gem. YouTube was always a big one that came back, and now in I guess the last couple of years, YouTube has become the number one digital platform where people go to find content. And you hear about the algorithm, but it's actually the machine learning that YouTube has built in. It's extremely intuitive, very complex, but complex in a good way where it can understand, not just the viewers' needs, but also the content creators, what they need to accomplish by reaching an audience. So, YouTube is an ecosystem. It's not just about, being able to. You remember you used to be sort of subscribed to something and then you would pick your favorites and you would have to kind of search YouTube to find what you wanted. Now when you go on YouTube, if you're subscribed to it, if you've liked the channels, etc., that you follow, chances are you're going to be fed, after you finish a video, another 5 videos are going to be there for you. And you're probably going to watch at least some of that. And what happens is the algorithm and machine learning learns more about you, your viewing habits, and it goes very deep. Like the show that we're doing today, for example, on YouTube will be captioned, and the captioning is part of the machine learning, so topics and people that are mentioned. So what it tries to do is pick up on trends that a viewer is looking at, right? And everybody's different. So nobody in the audience is going to have exactly the same YouTube feed or the stuff coming back to them. We have our niche likes and, different things that we use. We use different platforms as well. And there's different types of content on YouTube, everything from, the YouTube shorts, which are the verticals that are like TikTok, as well as the, you'll see long form content. AMI's got a few shows up there. I saw Disrupt go up yesterday again. So what we wanted to do was really sort of get over there, and we felt that you guys, with the format of the show, and it's always had a great following, etc., we wanted to add that to the AMI audio offering, if you will, so that you can hear both Kelly and company on AMI audio, but also on YouTube. It'll be on YouTube today, and it'll be on every day, and that will help everybody who is tuning in for that. They're probably going to find Kelly and Rami because they watch something else and it'll come into their feed. If they find it, if they're on it anyway, it will repeat if they watch it. And it also gives people a chance to sort of zero in on what part they want to watch as well. If they don't want to watch the whole thing, they can scrub through and, hey, I know there's an interview.
They do want to
on
watch the whole
20-minute
thing.
mark.
Of course they do. How dare they?
John,
Yeah.
Well, and
watch the whole thing.
But that's also
Exactly.
what we need to accomplish is we want people to be on board for the full hour. And that's why it's so important to be, engaging throughout the broadcast, as you guys always are. So, and then the other side I should address too is why not on AMI TV anymore? And as I mentioned earlier, TV has become very much a sort of sampling world now where people are watching their content on demand. So you have your apps, whatever that is, we may include YouTube, but a lot of people watching Netflix, a lot of people watching Amazon. Then there's, Crave, and then there's the Rogers has got Smart Stream coming out where you can actually get content on demand. So the idea of sitting down now at 9 o'clock or at 2 o'clock and watching a TV show for 2 hours at that point in time is just not something that is necessarily happening as much as it used to anymore. So what AMI TV is now going to do is focus on the series that we've been creating. We do about 100 new hours a year of the various series that we see on the channel, and that's really where we're going to get the best audiences and be able to engage with everybody. So it's about really serving up the content in the places where people are going to actually find it. So this show, we believe, AMI Audio and YouTube is its best outlet.
We agree. I mean, everything's on YouTube, right? Like pods and content of all kinds, plus the way that media is changing. You kind of said it earlier, where YouTube was here and then it was something else and now it's back again. But every kind of media out there, whether it's appointment viewing or long form media or short form media, something or another has to go up on YouTube just for people to understand what is out there, right? Like if it's not on YouTube, then most of the time, or I guess on podcast platforms, most of the time you can assume that people don't know your product exists. So it's a good move for AMI, and it's still a work in progress, as you mentioned as well.
Well, yeah, this is just the starting point really for us. We've been on YouTube for a little while now, but we've last year, 2 years ago now, I guess, coming up on 2 years. Ryan Delahanty, who was our East Coast content development specialist, became our. He started off with our podcast. He was running all our podcasts, which are also going to YouTube, video podcasts, as well as uploaded content. And Ryan spent a lot of time in the analytics. We get incredible analytics from YouTube, not personal information or anything like that, but we just see, how long are people watching, and where are they coming in from? What is the breakdown of the audience? And keep in mind that because YouTube is owned by Google, Google merges all the stats that they have. So if you have a Google account or you use Google, and then then you're using YouTube, then that information that is being gathered by Google is also going over to YouTube. So again, the machine learning is really able to get into that. So what we're trying to do now is really kind of make sure that the great content we're making, not to change what you guys are doing. And as you can see, this show is more or less what it was on television. We're not trying to change the show, but rather make sure that we have access to the audience through examining those analytics and tweaking things where we can make things better, and obviously cross promoting with the various social media platforms that you're on too, to let people know where to find you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and just follow the people wherever they go, and all the people are on YouTube and other
And
pods.
we need that. And we want your reviews, your comments, ladies and gentlemen, and stick around and everything like that. John, thanks for giving us some of the whole background, AMI TV, but what we're striving for when it comes to being out here on YouTube. Your time always appreciated. We'll talk to you soon.
You
Thanks.
bet. Thanks very much, guys, and congratulations on the relaunch.
Thanks,
Thank
pal.
you.
John Melville joining us, Vice President of Content Development at AMI. Really nice for John to kind of explain some of that, especially when you talk about do's and don'ts of YouTube. If you're putting a program on there, you can find us there. You can find us also as a podcast. Ramya, I want to kind of get into something here that's pretty important. Did you celebrate
Yeah.
Diwali on October 30th or the 31st?
Okay, yeah, here's the thing, right? And I don't know if I'm just making this more controversial than it needs to be, but it started off pretty controversial. A couple years ago, people
did.
started celebrating Diwali, and I think people who celebrate Eid can attest to this as well. Nisreen, chime in whenever you want. But there's started to become this problem of whether you're celebrating the day that everybody else was celebrating the day before, the year before, or the day before, and it becomes a conversation about, like, are you following the calendar as it is locally, or are you following the people in India, like the biggest population of Diwali celebrators and recognizers, and doing it when they're doing it? And oh my gosh, and I don't know where I actually stand on this. I feel like a bit of a fence sitter, but all of a sudden my mom announces this year that we're celebrating Diwali yesterday, so the 30th.
Right.
But people in Sri Lanka are celebrating today on
Today.
Halloween, the 31st. If you ask Google, just bare bones here, it'll tell you it's Diwali's on the 31st of October. But not everyone is doing that. So
Yeah, it gets so
I don't know how people
confusing.
decide.
I totally understand. Yeah. If for Eid, it's the same thing. We're like, okay, should we celebrate with our family that live in Jordan and Palestine, or should we celebrate locally? We always end up
And it becomes
celebrating locally, but it gets so confusing. We're like, okay,
but
is
it
it
becomes
today, yesterday,
serious.
tomorrow?
Right? Like
Yeah.
you could say, oh my gosh, just celebrate both days. It's a celebration. But it becomes serious because you're like, do we follow the moon sighting in our localities, or do we follow Saudi Arabia where, the OGs are doing it? And that's the same thing with Diwali. It's like, do we follow the Gregorian calendar year, which, just toss that all together in this conversation, but just saying, or do we follow the biggest population as they're celebrating when they celebrate?
Would some
Not
people
really.
Absolutely.
dismiss it kind of too, because people who don't know, people who are kind of saying, what's all this hype about it? Because again,
Yeah.
Americans, for example, here in North America, have Thanksgiving in November. Canadians have it in October for different
Yeah.
reasons. I don't think you can compare what Thanksgiving versus, and maybe I'm wrong, people out there, no offense to anybody, but I don't think you can compare it with Diwali.
No, and Diwali more now is just like a chill celebration. You're just hanging out and vibing more than it is religious or orthodox. So you can honestly just, most of us, what we're doing is when someone says, "When's Diwali?" we're just Googling it and just going with what we find.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what you
So
see.
when you
exactly.
get into
How
the
did you celebrate, Rams?
My mom always makes kesari, which is like a Tamil Sri Lankan dessert. It's sweet, and you had to make something sweet for Diwali. And none of us do any of the lanterns or anything like that. Like, we're all grown up now. But just to be cute, we always give something to, like, a gift to family members. We don't have kids in our family. That would have been lit. But
Hmm.
we either give out money, or my mom, she just buys us some piece of clothing or another because she's cute.
I miss receiving money for Eid. I feel like
Yeah, you don't get
so
Edie anymore.
we don't get it anymore because we're quote unquote grown up. We're adults now. Yeah.
Are you
Now,
also
when did
being
that
forced to
start? When you
give?
were like 19, 20, or,
And I feel
like
like,
youth, the way youth
oh
is
no, you're trying
today,
to
like
milk
it can
it.
be up to 25.
Yeah, and I feel like now we need more money than when we did when we were little. Can we all agree on that?
Yeah,
Then
especially
you
if you're
gotta
running
do it
out
Let's
buying
honestly.
anything with
normalize
cocoa in
getting
it or
money
sugar.
as adults. Yeah,
True. Or
All right.
normalize stealing the money from the kids because no one's giving the adults.
I
Yeah, and if
agree.
anyone wants to
I
weigh in
agree.
on this, especially this last part, should these ladies be getting any money or anything like that, call our feedback line. Any thoughts that you have pertaining what we're doing here on the show or talking about, 1-866-509-4545. I got to move on because I brought up the sugar. I brought up the cocoa. And our next
Mhm.
guest, Chef Mary Mammoliti, is going to join us to talk about some of the vintage Halloween treats out there. Today, we're diving into the delicious, nostalgic world of Halloween treats. Mary, you're here to talk to us about some of the treats that filled our bags years ago. That darn wax wrapped caramel to the candied, what do you call that? The popcorn or the corn. Not my favorite. I was saying earlier in the show that I'm a huge fan of the shoelace licorice, but you would have never found that. Hey, Mare, welcome to the reboot of Kelly and Company.
I am so excited to be here. I'm so happy that we're doing this and that I'm back talking food with you both.
Finally. It was like a few weeks where
I
we had
know.
no food talk on Thursdays. What was going on? Felt
I
so
was
out of
just going through
place.
Kelly and Ramya withdrawals.
Yeah.
I really was.
It's okay. It's okay. We were
Well,
following you
I'm
on
sorry.
Instagram, just going through kitchen
And I'm
confession
sorry.
feeds.
The first thing I thought of after talking to these two about getting money or not getting it was, no, Mary, you missed the money.
Come on. She would do it for free.
I mean,
right, Mare?
of course, maybe.
Hmm.
Maybe. I love that in
Of
there.
course I
That's the
would.
honest maybe. Mayor, let's talk vintage candy and stuff like that and memories of Halloween because, well, if I go
Yeah.
out trick-or-treating now, people are going to slam doors in face or say, yeah, do a trick. Let's see you do a handstand. What are some of the classic Halloween goodies that you fondly most remember and what made them special to you?
The first one that came to mind, and you mentioned a little bit about it, is candy corn. Now, have both of you tried candy corn?
No.
I think so.
No. Okay. Okay. I'm honest, when I talk about this, it may ring a bell. So they're little tiny candies. So they're in the shape of a triangle. It's got like this yellow, orange, white layers, and it feels to me almost iconic with Halloween because every time these things pop up, I'm not a big fan, and honestly, that does spark a debate, right? The candy corn, it's got like this waxy honey-like sweetness. So it's chewy, it's
I
waxy.
don't. Is everything on this list going to be waxy? Because I'm not going to try it if it starts off with waxy.
Well,
Is
you have
waxy
to
Well,
supposed
don't
to
eat
be
the
good,
paper then.
guys?
once.
But don't eat the paper then.
Waxy,
I'm
waxy
not
to
talking
me
about
again
the
is
paper.
Halloween. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I always remember some type of wax candy of some sort being in my bag.
Yeah.
But Mayor,
Or
candy corn's been
as we got
around for
older,
like a
pillowcases.
century or so, right? Like, oh gosh,
Yeah,
we'll get
yeah,
into
yeah.
that pillowcase thing in a moment and getting all the, but candy corn, wasn't that like the original? And when people put that in pillowcases, you got the
Yeah.
lint, it wrapped in lint too. But
That's
Yes.
it's
so
been around the
gross, guys.
longest.
It's so gross.
I would say the 1880s.
Yeah.
The 1880s, and it was originally made by hand. So it gives like that old school kind of charm to it. And
Wow.
honestly, these candies last for decades because they're just whatever they're made up with. And there's always this debate with them. Or like if you talk to somebody, if you mention candy corn to someone, and like Kelly, you mentioned, I'm not a fan. Right off the bat, you mentioned
No.
candy corn, I'm not a fan. So you either love it or you set it aside. There's no in between with this candy. And a lot of these vintage candies, that's kind of the whole thing about it. And that's the whole feel about it, is either you love it or you hate it. Or maybe
Well,
not hate
what
it. Maybe
Ramya
hate
said
is
about the
harsh, but
texture,
Or
right?
you don't
Like-
try it and you'll just
like-
press pass.
Well,
Every
because you
time.
hear about it, like the waxy thing just took Ramya right out of like 12 dozen types of
But that's the
candy,
thing.
right? Just no, they're gonna be waxy, forget it. And again, some of the
I
people with the
feel-
dye and things, you what?
Yes. I
Yeah.
think that with all these vintage candies, I'm just going to tell you, I feel like the people who
Yeah.
like it's only because it's nostalgic. People who haven't tried any
Ooh,
of
good
these, which
point.
I haven't, I'm going to
Right.
listen to your reviews and think you only like it because you've had it forever and that it's not actually good.
Okay, can we please
Sorry.
do a taste test of these candies with Ramya
Fine.
and Kelly? Because
Let's do it.
honestly, just to get their reaction, even if it's
Yeah.
everything to me, all
I
these
think that's a
candies,
good point,
all-
Mary.
Yeah. Like they have this waxy feel to them. I get it. But also to me, waxy and chewy kind of go hand in hand, right? Have you heard of molasses kisses?
Nope. What's that? Okay, that's the
I
next one.
I know I've had all of these things. I've got to admit, I know I have. But one of the biggest problems I've always had, Mary, is I just yanked stuff out of the bag when I was a kid. I had no
Yeah.
idea except get that
No
paper out of
way.
here. Don't eat it.
Okay, this one you'll
Oh.
definitely remember because it had like this distinct texture and flavoring to it. So it was sticky, chewy. It had like a rich, smoky, sweet molasses flavor, honestly.
Oh.
And it always came wrapped in orange or black, or sometimes even like orange and black with a pumpkin on it. Just wax paper again. There's the wax, Ramya. Wax paper again. It's
Yep.
honestly, it's a taste you will always remember.
So
Because
was it only out
it
at
was one of
Halloween
those
pretty well?
candies-
Like, is it a traditional
Yes.
actual Halloween? Okay.
It's a traditional.
What shape is
yes.
it?
Okay, so it's one of those. It's a rectangle, I would say, almost like when you get like those toffees or that type of thing, or like
Mhm.
the shape of a Tootsie Roll, maybe I want to say, where it's
Yeah,
that
that's what it's
long
reminding me
I
of.
like that.
rectangle
Ooh.
kind of flavor, like a block
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling. But it was one of those candies where you would bite into it, and you honestly would think that maybe your fillings or something would come out with it. Like it was.
I get
'Cause it
like I
would
said,
stick
more
right
and
in there.
more appealing every time you describe this.
But see, if you didn't know, you would have bit into it, right? It's because now
No.
you know. Now you know.
Okay.
So you're kind of like, I don't know.
Now I know my
think I'm gonna
fillings are
pass
coming
on
out.
that.
Well, and I think it's funny because we all have our exceptions where we will be careful because we love the taste of something. Because I mean, I always thought all candy it would do that to your fillings, or it would just kind of mold itself around your tooth as you ate the 5th and 16th
Yeah.
candy. It just worked that way, right? And the variety of them was something else. Now, you want to talk a little gum, Mary, before we end off with you today. And this particular one, I gotta say, I absolutely gum is funny enough because you chew, 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 chew. No, where'd the flavor go? Yeah, spit it out.
Yeah.
Or as a kid, we used to just swallow it until somebody said, you'll get a
Oh,
ball
man.
of gum in your stomach, and it takes 7 years for it to go away, if ever. But
Oh my
this gum,
gosh, I
bazooka
forgot we
gum,
used to swallow gum. Like that's how long we
Bazooka.
haven't
Yes.
swallowed it.
just
That's
swallowed it.
so-
And
wow.
this has, and we did it when it had no flavor. But bazooka gum, to me, it started out with no flavor.
Yes.
See, and with
No,
us, it
that's
was
not
the
true.
typical Italian fear that our parents and family would instill in us. If you swallow gum, you're gonna die. Like it was just so dramatic. Right? There was just so dramatic. Which
So
none of
much
that happened, and
rubber.
yeah, we all swallowed gum.
Mhm.
I
But
wish my
bazooka
family
gum,
had
right?
said that. We just got scared by how long it would take because because of the swallowing, and you just didn't know. It was almost like, no, I don't want to be carting you down to the bathroom or to find a garbage and spit. Just swallow it, and it was just one of those things. People
Obviously.
just swallow it. Oh no!
Ease of access. Okay, but Mary, I know this one. I know this one. This is the one with the comic,
You
right? It
know
was
this
all
one.
rigidy, the gum. Yeah.
Yes.
And hard.
Yes. So it isn't
Yeah.
the best gum like we talked about. It was, it's got that kind of bubblegum flavor to it. And it came with that comic, like you said. So it was wrapped in a comic, and then it had a fortune. And then also, which was always so much fun, it had the promise of sea monkeys or that secret club ring. I don't know if you remember the club or a membership or something to belong to something. Or the sea monkeys
Yes.
were my favorite. I always wanted sea monkeys because
Aw.
they would sell it that there were these cute little things. And it's only if you mailed in like several hundred of these wrappers. So they made you overdose on this sugar, ensure that you bought their product because all these kids are mailing in these wrappers to be part of something. But the seahorses, they weren't seahorses. They
Also,
weren't even horses.
what
They weren't even
overdose
anything
of
about the
sugar?
sea.
There was barely any sugar in this gum. That is BS.
That's why I said it had no flavor.
I was getting my overdose from the molasses kisses.
Well, it did at the
if I was living
beginning.
in this time.
Remember, it had that bubblegum flavor when you first bit into
Yep.
it? And then all
At
of
the
a sudden it's
first
gone.
bite.
Not when you
Yeah.
bite into it. It's when you put it in your mouth, and then after you start biting, it's gone.
When you lick the wrapper, it came in. That's the only time you had flavor because the flavor would all leave and go into the wrapper. Right?
But we can all agree that it was hard at the beginning. And then by the
Very.
time
Hard,
you
really hard. I thought it was, and as a kid, I even thought, "Oh, this is the gum they pulled off people's shoes or something. This is the cheapest one they produced, and that's why they hand it out." Parents do that because, oh, there's a nice cheap gum. Give it to the kid like plain chips.
You guys thought too
Nazreen?
much about your gums. Yeah.
I
I
was
thought
one
too
of
much
those
about
kids
all
that
my
did mail
candy,
in.
Mary. Mary, happy
I was one of
Halloween.
those kids that mailed in.
I got to know, Mary, did you love Halloween more than Christmas?
No. And
No,
that was a quick answer because I like Halloween. I wasn't a big fan of dressing up and going out because not everyone was
Right.
accessible.
Yep.
And I would
Yeah.
always have problems going up and down the stairs with the lighting. And that's another thing. Everyone, bring your chairs, your bowls, everything to the front of your driveway, the front of your walkway, so no one has to go up and down stairs. Keep it lit.
Please.
Yeah, and then even have some
Yeah,
toys.
for
Because I
sure.
had a little girl one year that said she can't have the candy, but she'll take it to her sister. And it broke my heart. And I'm like, I have nothing to give her. So now I have toys out there too.
That's
Oh, Mary.
lovely.
But Christmas,
Beautiful.
yeah, Christmas is definitely my holiday.
Okay.
Definitely.
Mary,
Good.
thanks a lot for
And that I
making
can't wait
ours
for.
with, of course, taking us back to the days of candy corn debates and bazooka comics. We'll talk to you next week on the show.
See you later.
Mary Mammoliti always bringing food to us. We'll do these conversations with her on a Thursday. And on tomorrow's edition of the program, Greg David is going to preview the new AMI TV series, Don't Take My Sparkle, following a couple in their journey exploring stem cell treatment for a recent diagnosis. Plus, we'll find out what else people are watching on TV. We'll see what Greg is really into. Also on the show, it's the debut of Para Sport Nation, brand new AMI sports show. Alex Smythe will be getting in a chance to spotlight some sports in Canada and abroad and pulls back the curtain on how para sports are played. And if you don't know her yet, you're going to get to know her. You saw her today, but on tomorrow's show, Nazreen Abdel-Majid, our technical producer, visits with us right off the top, and we'll find out about her social media efforts for our show. Email us at kellyco@ami.ca. Talk to you tomorrow on behalf of Ramya Muthan. Kelly McDonald here.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly & Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.